Fair warning, this show contains strong language and adult themes from time to time. Sorry, Jerry can't help it.
Sick Boy Wolfgang Productions presents The Offering with Jerry Horror. A deep dive into the history of film and its filmmakers. Mostly horror, always genre.
Listeners and fans of The Offering can get their hands on their very own The Offering with Jerry Horror merch, now only at TeePublic. Find your own fresh The Offering with Jerry Horror high-quality merchandise, including t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, long sleeves, stickers, and mugs. Just like the show, we've got gear that's mostly horror, always genre. The Offering with Jerry Horror TeePublic store has everything you need to represent your favorite podcast. Folks, head on over to teepublic.com right now and pick up your very own Offering tee today. Welcome to The Offering with Jerry Horror, the show where we can have a quiet and frank discussion as adults about the things that matter to me, or at least that I think matter to me. Please take a moment to subscribe to our show wherever you get fine podcasts, and hey, stay up to date on future episodes. Hey, what's up, folks? It's your old pal, Jerry Horror. I'm here to give you guys an encore presentation of the obscure horror facts that we did with Jeff Frumess on his YouTube show. He's got all kinds of cool things going on. He's always got all these amazing musicians on his shows. It's pretty cool. So I was kind of honored to be on something a little bit different with producer Pete. You get to hear his lovely voice on this, which is pretty cool. Some of the recording might not be too good, and that is largely because, I don't know, maybe it's the devil himself. For whatever reason, someone didn't like me that evening, and I was not able to give you the quality recording that you deserve. Just some housekeeping, scuttlebutt, and business. We are hard at work on The Offering Season 3. Look, man, I would love to do this full time. I would love to have a fucking Patreon. I see some of these people, and to be honest, they're like fucking morons, and they're making money and doing pretty well, so maybe they're not morons. Maybe I'm the moron. So there's that. Regardless, your boy Jerry Horror is looking to expand. I want to get on other shows. So if you know people who have a podcast, maybe you have a podcast, I will be a guest. If I could, I would do this every day. Don't feel shy. If you know someone with a show, I don't care what it is. It could be a cooking show. I will make it work. So, you guys can just go to the link tree. You know how to get in contact with me. I hope all of you are doing very well. We are going to be bringing back the show probably, let's say summer of 2023. I learned some things, and I always love learning things, and that's really what this show has been all about. It's about the research, the deep dives, the knowledge, the story behind the story. Again, enjoy this encore presentation from Jeff Frumess with producer/seducer/ handsome guy, my pal Pete and Jeff Frumess, as we talk about some obscure horror facts.
Welcome, gentlemen. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you on. Pete, you've been on once before. Jerry, this is your first time. Welcome to my show.
Thank you.
Jeff.
Go ahead.
Thank you for having us, Jeff. We're here once again, dude. Thank you for having us on your program.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry it took so long. It's just, I always told Pete, I say, Pete, sometimes you won't hear from me, but you will always hear back from me. I always get back to people. It's just always on wackadoo time schedule. And
you're a busy man. You're a busy man. What can you do?
Know. I feel like you're busier than me, man. You're doing Pete just put out. If anybody's seen the movie Deathgasm, which is such a fun flick from Down Under in New Zealand, he teamed up with the creators of the director, I guess the writer and director of that, and they put out a sequel comic book. Congratulations on that. It's really great. Is that out?
Thank you, buddy. Thank you. Yeah, it's out. It's out in stores. You can go out in stores right now, pick up Deathgasm, issue 1.
That's rad. That's rad. And Jerry, please tell me more about the offering. And by the way, if anybody really wants to check out Jerry's offering, what Jerry is offering, if you go down into the description, you can go right to Jerry's show, the podcast that he does. Jerry, take it away. Tell us about it.
Thank you for having me on the show, Jeff. It's a pleasure. I think what it is that the offering as a podcast wouldn't have been able to be done 20 years ago. These are the stories behind the story. There's so many things that we don't know about, like as far as films that got made, because now the great equalizer being the internet, a lot of these stories have come to the forefront. For the most part, a lot of films, you want to call it Hollywood at large, you didn't really know things unless studios or specific talent or directors wanted you to know them. So now we kind of have access to all these people who have worked on all these great movies, and we're getting, it's the story behind the story.
Jerry, I didn't want to cut you off in the middle of the spiel, mm-hmm. but your mic is a little scratchy. There's some sort of I don't know what's happening. It's like sizzling and crackling.
Do you know what it is? It's the beard. Are you getting any feedback now?
Yeah,
it's the mic. Maybe you could unplug the headphones.
Yeah, it's okay.
This is what it's going to sound. Whoa, hold on, kids.
Okay.
We lost Jerry. We lost you.
Jerry, we lost you. No.
Come back.
Come back, Jerry. No, you're muted. Jerry, I can't hear you, buddy. Here's what's going to have to happen, Jerry. I have to kick you from the session because Melon Studio is just whack like that. Come back in. Use the link. Click the link. Come back and reconnect your microphone configuration. It does this weird thing when you disconnect a cable. I was doing a show the other day, and I was hesitant to end the show. Oh no! Now we have freezing. Oh no! There he is. There he is. Okay. Can you? Yeah, but you can hear us, right? All right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm gonna boot you from the show. Come back in. Reconnect your mic situation. We'll let you back in, and we'll keep going. Okay. So we'll wait just a few moments while Jerry does that. Jerry, I'm kicking you real quick. Jerry will be right back. He's coming right back. Let's say hello to everyone. Lizzie Graves is here. Lizzie, how are you? Been a while. Angus, of course. Angus is here. Angus, good to see you. And yes, and Biz is here as well. You kind of sound like a cross. You kind of sound like a cross between Bullwinkle and the Pumpkin Rabbit. That's not a bad thing for you. Okay. I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. So just a sort of in honor of Jerry's podcast, I guess it's a very fitting sort of idea is that we have each gathered 5 or so obscure horror facts to share with each other, kind of like spooky campfire tales, right, Pete?
Well, yeah, the thing is that between the 3 of us, we're all obsessed with horror.
Right.
I am the producer of the offering. So Jerry, I've known Jerry my whole life pretty much, and I produce his podcast. But his podcast is special because he's the only one on the show. He doesn't have guests normally, but he pontificates about facts, hard to find facts about movies, mostly 80s and 90s. It's mostly horror, but always genre. That's the tagline.
Right.
And he's back.
Always genre. And he's back. He's back, and he's let's hear him talk.
Hey, it's me, your boy Jerry Horror.
Yes.
Oh, that's great. That you sound creamy as hell. That's perfect. That's perfect. Okay.
Frosty.
Yeah, just frosty. Love it. Love it. Okay. So we're gonna go around, much as I was just saying, just like if you were telling campfire tales, we're gonna go around in a cipher and each let off a fact. Maybe we'll talk a few seconds about the fact. We got to keep it going.
Oh shit! We're going right into it, man. There's like no lube. We're just
no. We can have a little
dry.
Lube. I'm just just introducing what the thing is. But the idea is that we're gonna go around and around and around like a merry-go-round. Because what that eventually leads to is it leads to discourse and conversation and whatnot. So that's good. That's good too. Jerry, besides the offering, what did you decide to do the offering? What made you decide to get into this?
I felt like there were 10 billion other white guys with beards with podcasts. So like, fuck it. I might as well do one too. No, really what happened was it was one of these things where I'm really big into research and dissecting film in general. So I started realizing, like, wait a second, I'm like, I really need to kind of channel some of this into some kind of proven art form so that it's not just crazy guy looking stuff up on the internet, And the further I've gone with it, the more I enjoy it. I enjoy the research,
Nice. That's great.
Can I go into like how it all started, Joe?
Please.
I know your listeners and your viewers really want to get into the horror facts, but like just a little quick background on Jerry and I's relationship.
Please.
Or our friendship, our working relationship, but our friendship. So I've known Jerry since high school, since the 90s in Hop Hog High School, Long Island. And Jeff, I make films, and Jerry has been in them. He's been in a couple of my features. He was in a punk rock feature called Freaks, Nerds, and Romantics. He played the CBGB's bouncer. And he's also been in The Gooligans. He's been on my show, The Gooligans.
Oh.
He's played a luchador. He's played a villain. He's played like a luchador villain, amongst other things. But Jerry is multifaceted, multi-talented. He is a rapper. He's a
like you rap presence, or you actually rap lyrics.
I directed some of his music videos.
That's great. That's cool.
But about 2 years ago, when the pandemic happened, we were all sitting around what the fuck's going on? What are we doing with ourselves? That we couldn't. There was we felt helpless, and I just started talking to Jerry, and he had a podcast a long time ago. I had a podcast that you were on, Jeff, called Pitch It Movie Podcast.
Great podcast. Such a good podcast.
Thank you. And Jerry's been on it. And
tell people real quick what that podcast is about too.
So the Pitch It Movie Podcast, the setup of the show is that
that's how we met. We met because of that podcast.
Yes. So I co-hosted it with my friends Sean King and Will Puntarch, and we had a job working for Mr. Hollywood. He's the Lord of all Hollywood. He green lights or red lights everything you see in film. But we worked in his building, the 666 building in New York City. But we worked in the very basement of it, where we would meet once a week to pitch an original movie based on the guest who was on the show. It was pretty much an improv game where a guest would come on the show, tell us their life story or tell us what they were interested in. And we would just be like, you know what? You've inspired us to create this movie. When Jeff was on the show, I just met him. He came into the studio, went into the basement, and he's like, did you guys hear about this Fire Festival? And that's when the news broke about Fire Festival. That's how long
it was. Like the day it was happening. And, that's kind of what's fun about this improv game is that what you do is you're on the fly, you're writing with a bunch of people, and you can wrap current events into the writing. And Fire Festival just happened. And so it's like, it just led, and you can watch that episode. I stole that episode, put it on this channel. It's on this channel. Although there's also official Pitch It Movie Podcast network and show and things too. So go check that out. It's just really, really great.
Please do. Yeah. And to finish off on that,
right,
we have an hour to do that. And we came up with like a Nicolas Cage, Stephen King,
John Travolta was in there too. Directed by Werner Herzog, written by Stephen King. starring Nicolas Cage.
Mm-hmm. And Jerry actually pitched one of our favorites called I Am Cage, which is like a found.
Oh, that was you, Jerry. Wow.
Jerry. So but that ended a few years ago, and Jerry had his own shows, and we were just sitting around all sad about the pandemic, and I was like, Jerry has a very distinct voice, and it's a very, as you will listen in a few moments, it's very husky, but he's a great storyteller. And the movies we love, there are amazing stories behind the movies. And Jerry goes into deep research, and he pontificates about these movies that we love, like not only like Nightmare on Elm Street, but like Bloodsport, like movies like that. But he'll tell you within an hour the stories behind the stories.
It's great,
right there. And it's like he's got. I knew he had like this amazing talent, and I had to put it out there. So. I'm a silent partner on his show because he's the only voice. He's the only one that needs to be heard on The Offering. Right there.
You're about to find out.
Oh, shit.
You done fucked around, Jeff. Now you're about to find out.
I'm about to find out. I'm just letting you know, heads up. I think we're just going to have to roll with it, but your mic is it's scratchy again. It's doing the same mojo that it was before. So maybe it wasn't the microphone. It was something else that's causing it. It's a signal thing. I don't know. It's fine. We can hear you and everything. I just want to give you a heads up about that. I don't know if there's something that maybe comes.
Maybe you should close some of the porn tabs on your computer, Jer.
That could be helpful. In any case, let us begin. And you know what? I'm gonna start us off. I'm going to take the first round and set the tone here. And this is okay. I guess this isn't exactly a fact as much as it is maybe a hot take, but it is factual in its sort of POV. It's one of my favorite little horror factoids. I kind of, the thing about horror factoids and all this sort of stuff and these stories behind the stories, just all that stuff is that, it's currency. It's currency with horror fans, right? And it's currency when you're making conversation and you're talking. And if you're a good linguist or conversationalist and you know stuff, it's like you swap stuff. You swap it. That whole sort of thing. So in any case, I'm starting off with the fact that Return of the Living Dead is just as much of a sequel to Night of the Living Dead as Dawn of the Dead is a sequel to Night of the Living Dead. Return of the Living Dead, one of my favorite horror films ever, one of the most meta horror films ever. Just really, really meta in that basically it is technically a continuation because the story that happens in Night of the Living Dead happens before the events of Return of the Living Dead. They just changed all the facts around it. It became a fictionalized movie. Movie was originally the idea was heralded by John Russo before it was rewritten by Dan O'Bannon of Aliens fame. So he kind of changed the whole thing. And then he turned it into Night of the Living Dead being a movie within the Return of the Living Dead world. But it still makes it the other official sequel to Night of the Living Dead.
That's an opinion or a fact?
That's a fact. That's a fact.
That's a Jeff fact.
I love how Pete so subtly is like, that's an opinion. No, I thought that's a good fact. That's like factual. It's a fact. It's continuing the story from, within the story. It's kind of a fact. Okay, maybe it's a little bit. Maybe it's a half fact.
Did they ever say why there were zombies in Night of the Living Dead?
The Venus probe.
Because in Return of the Dead is like toxic.
Right. In Return of the Living Dead, it's 2,4,5 trioxin gas that's in the barrels. But that's what makes it so interesting. So long before the Human Centipede Part 3, you had Return of the Living Dead as a sequel. And yes, it's a factual sequel to Night of the Living Dead, Pete, because the damn title is Return of the Living Dead. And it's called Return of the Living Dead because it's a continuation. Angus in the comments says, I would call that a personal fact. Very, very politically stated, Angus. Fine. It's a personal fact. But that's my fact, and I'm sticking to it.
I dig it. Any opinions, Jerry?
Look, man, I love Return of the Living Dead. It's one of my favorites. Honestly, it's got a great soundtrack, great effects, great kills. You got Linnea Quigley; she's naked and dancing. What is not to like about Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, that dancing scene by Linnea Quigley sells it right there.
If you know, you know.
Oh yes. All right, who's going to outfact me with the next fact? Go ahead.
You go ahead, Jer.
Okay, so let me do a little bit of table setting because that's how we do the offering. The year is 1988, and 20th Century Fox is trying to do a sequel to Predator. And Schwarzenegger's kind of got them on the hook. He's like, I want more money. So he keeps asking for more and more money. And James Cameron's at that time is like, listen, he's like, I've got a really good idea for Terminator 2. He's like, we really need to do this. This is going to be the move. So they say to Schwarzenegger, they're like, listen, we're going to give you a good co-star. We're going to give you Patrick Swayze. It's going to be, kind of like a buddy comedy in future Los Angeles. And he's like, I don't know. I need $250K more. And this is what Cameron told Schwarzenegger to do. And 20th Century was like, it's a bridge too far. We're not going to give you the $250K because they just wanted to call his bluff because they felt like Schwarzenegger was taking over the production as it is. So like, yeah, well, fuck it. We're not going to pay him. We're not going to pay him the $250. So really, that's all it came down to. Schwarzenegger would have done the second film. Now, where it gets a little bit wonky is, obviously we know history works out. Schwarzenegger goes with James Cameron. They do Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's like one of the greatest movies ever made. So Fox is just trying to save Predator 2. So they're like, okay, so we've got Swayze in place. We need a bigger star to anchor it. And like, that's how, a couple of years makes a big difference. He was just, hot off of Dirty Dancing. He's, that next year, instead of doing Predator 2, Swayze did Roadhouse. So everybody's in a good spot. They're like, let's get Steven Seagal. And Steven Seagal was like, well, I feel like it should just be me and not Patrick Swayze. And they're like, well, we kind of signed Swayze on. So, and if you see Steven Seagal like on Homeland soil, you might want to call the authorities. The guy right now is like an enemy of the state. He's a big Putin backer. He's a big anti-Ukraine guy and possible sexual trafficker, Steven Seagal. But back in the late 80s, early 90s, he made some really good movies. And he decided, no, I'm not going to do this. So they finally plugged poor old, my good friend from Lethal Weapon 2. What's the actor's name, Pete? Murtaugh.
Friggin' Danny Glover.
Yeah, Danny Glover.
Daniel Glover.
They plug Danny Glover in and they say, all right, no matter what happens, whether it's Seagal or Swayze, you'll be the co-star. They lose Swayze. They lose Seagal. And they're like, fuck it. We're making Predator 2 with Danny Glover. And that, folks, is how that happened.
Well, it makes sense because they're both produced by Joel Silver. And Joel Silver also produced Lethal Weapon, which starred Danny Glover. And, it takes place in this. It's basically it's a procedural. It's like a action procedural instead of a comedy procedural with a Predator. instead of and it's a great sequel at that. And the
I like
procedural. Yeah, it's great. The procedural elements are just as great as the Predator element. So yeah, it's great. It's good.
Nice fact, bro.
Very factual.
Good facting.
That was fact. Matter of fact about that one. Matter of fact. What about you, Pete? What do you got for us?
I'm not like a horror trivia guy like you guys, so I try to do my best. I don't want to be a basic bitch here, but I'll do my best. Just piggybacking off of Jerry's Swayze facts.
Swayze.
It's about a fact about on the set of Ghost, how actual ghosts were seen on the set of Ghost. So Ghost with Patrick Swayze was shot on the Paramount lot. The same lot where Happy Days was filmed. And Happy Days, later on, when Happy Days in the 80s had Poltergeist star, diminutive star Heather O'Rourke on the cast. And as many of you know, Poltergeist is well known as a cursed film, right? Many cast members have died tragically, including Heather O'Rourke, who died as a child. But during the Happy Days times, or not the Happy Days times, but she was a cast member. They said that they would see her her spirit playing on the lot, and her favorite place to hang out was the catwalk above the lot. And they were just so. That's it. That while they were filming Ghost, the ghost of Heather O'Rourke was seen.
That's creepy, man. Seriously. I mean, it's creepy when you have ghosts, but the ghost of a child goes way up.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Like, you know, it's kind of sad that this young child, they kind of use her as kind of like a legend or an urban legend in Hollywood history. But yeah, that movie, like Poltergeist, is amazing. Her sister in the movie was murdered by an ex-boyfriend who like stalked her, right? She was the sister of the actor from American Werewolf in London, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My sister is a werewolf.
But yeah, all sorts of stuff like that. Yeah, we could. I bet we could talk like an hour about Poltergeist.
The bodies were real. The cadavers were real corpses in the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for this one I got is kind of. I don't really know if it's not really. It's more genre than it is horror, but it is.
Oh, is it mostly horror, always genre, just like The Offering?
Yeah, exactly. This is a fact that kind of breaks my heart a little bit, because it makes me kind of think of like what could have been. So initially, Bruce Campbell was in consideration for the role of Dr. Peter Elliott in Congo. Peter Elliott is played by Dylan Walsh. And if they didn't end up going with Bruce Campbell, but they liked him enough to give him the part of Charles, who's you see him in the opening, and he's eating the chocolate bar, and he gets taken and he goes missing. And we find out, spoilers on to almost a 30-year-old movie, that Charles, played by Bruce Campbell, was killed and found the diamonds of the lost city of Zinj. And of course, those diamonds ended up getting put in a diamond laser, and they're used to slice cannibalistic, ugly-looking gorilla monkey warriors, in half. And what's really a shame about this is the what if, because I really want to believe that if Campbell would have changed the tone of the entire film, playing off of both Tim Curry as well as Ernie Hudson. I mean, what a combo you have right there. You got Ernie Hudson as like the right-hand man, with the quick one-liners. You have Bruce Campbell, whose sidekick is literally a sign languaging gorilla that he's trying to get back home and ends up fighting a bunch of, as I said, cannibal, gorilla guardians guarding diamonds. And then, of course, he gets a hold of the laser and he's just doing his, his Ash thing with the laser, shooting monkeys left and right. And just like, what could have been? And when I think about the alternate history, had that casting choice gone down as it should have, I like to imagine that Congo they wouldn't have aimed for Congo to be a blockbuster film. It would have Campbell's cult status as Ash from The Evil Dead would have given Congo a more of a horror bend. Perhaps they wouldn't have tried to release it over the summer and instead gone for like a nice fall release during the Halloween season, change up the trailer and whatnot. And then that would have rebranded or reinvented Bruce Campbell as, basically a horror version of Indiana Jones. And maybe you get him as like the mummy in The Mummy in Brendan Fraser's. I mean, there's just so much that could have happened and we will never know.
I think the biggest problem that Congo had was it was a Michael Crichton property, and I think it wasn't Jurassic Park, because
they were chasing Jurassic Park. They were chasing those dino bugs.
And Congo is a really fun movie. It's got a lot of great practical effects.
Love Congo. Love it.
It's pulpy. Like, it's got a lot going for it. And like anybody, obviously have some listeners who might not have seen it, or you have some younger listeners, definitely check out Congo. It's worth your time. It's fun. It's a fun movie. Right?
Absolutely. What's going on, Ema? How are you tonight?
Hello.
Pete?
Right. Sorry, just following up, just missed opportunity. Would have loved to see Campbell in a gorilla franchise.
Oh my God, please. Yes.
Like, it would be like the Congo franchise would completely the Jurassic Park franchise completely went, sideways, and it became its own thing. And I feel like even though Congo was a Crichton property, they would have just done their own thing with Campbell and a gorilla.
The gorilla and Campbell would have gone to space because it had to do with satellites and like the diamonds and the laser. It eventually would have turned into like a Moonraker situation with a space gorilla and Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, just put me in the multiverse where that exists. Give me all the merch. I'd be wearing your HF. That's all we want. You know what? That would if you were a guest back on Pitch It Movie Podcast, we'd spend an hour mapping out the franchise of Robert Rodriguez's Congo franchise.
Oh yes, with Robert Rodriguez at the helm. Yes. Excellent, Pete. Excellent. I love it.
My next fact is
you're next.
Right, all my shit is fucking tragic. It's all tragic. So this is about the Twilight Zone movie.
Oh, I know. I already know what you're gonna say.
The minute you say Twilight Zone movie, I was like, I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah.
But,
all right.
But the basic bitch fact about the Twilight Zone movie is about Vic Morrow.
Yeah, not just Vic Morrow. It's not just Vic
Morrow. The children.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, if you're not a basic bitch, but the John Landis film,
the biggest piece of shit in the history of making movies, John Landis.
The John Landis portion.
Every chance I get, John Landis, biggest piece of shit who ever lived. Go ahead, Pete. Tell him why.
Because of this. But
tell him why.
Well, this isn't my fact, but this is building on the fact. But the Twilight Zone movie was an anthology. Nice mug, Jerry. Show him that logo.
Oh, pretty. Look at that thing.
That's how we roll, baby, at the offering.
Hell yeah.
So the John Landis portion of the anthology had Vic Morrow. I actually just watched Crazy Larry, Dirty Mary last week.
You
guys ever see that with Peter Fonda?
I've seen everything. No.
And Vic Morrow. Yeah, Vic Morrow's in that. Which he spends most of his time in a helicopter chasing a Tanager.
Jesus.
So, but yeah, on the set of Vic Morrow and two young children were dangerously close to special effects, a crashing helicopter.
Oof.
And he was beheaded, and the children were also killed. And John Landis was ultimately found not responsible in the court of law, but
criminal that happened.
You are the director of this film. So,
I just want to say also as a side note, fucking Steven Spielberg left the country at this point because they were doing pre-production on Temple of Doom and his lawyers advised him. So
Actually, I've heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. By the way, John Landis, Steven Spielberg was absolutely done with John Landis after this whole travesty went down.
Of course.
And it was like, I never want to like speak to you ever again, blah, blah, blah. But allegedly, there's no way to prove that this is true, but it is alleged that Steven Spielberg was on set that night when it went down and was swept away and disappeared from he was powerless. I mean, it wasn't like he was, he wasn't the supervising. I don't think he was the producer. Maybe he was. He was.
The studio, everybody involved, the lawyers got Spielberg out of the country, and because they had already begun, like they were in heavy pre-production for Temple of Doom, but they were like, "Yeah, you're going to go to India."
Yeah, I want to see this version of the Fabelmans.
Yeah, I want to see that. I want to see, like,
right.
They got to get Spielberg out of the country into India. That's
where little Sammy Fabelman is witness to a murder. But like the fact that I found was I had no idea that Vic Morrow's daughter is Jennifer Jason Leigh.
What?
Yeah, they were estranged. They were estranged.
And her big debut film, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, premiered merely a few weeks after his crazy death.
Dude,
it's freaking insane, man.
Like later, so they were filming Twilight Zone like during the summer, and Fast Times was premiered like the end of the summer. So yeah, that's a crazy fact. So the whole thing was like just the fact that Jennifer Jason Leigh is, who's a legendary actress on her own, but yeah, her father was Vic Morrow, who died in the Twilight Zone movie.
Damn.
Whatever you do not look up that. Do not go on YouTube and look that up.
Well, the accident? No, you want to know something? Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something. You know what? Just boils me rotten about the whole situation is that, it does kind of tie into what happened with Alec Baldwin now, to an extent. And look at what Alec Baldwin is facing manslaughter charges. And now whether you say that he should or shouldn't, I'm not here to debate that. That's not the point of it. The point is that somehow John Landis managed to avoid, as the director of overseeing the production and the stunts and everything, somehow managed to not do any jail time, not be charged with anything. When Coming to America came out, he gave tickets to the premiere to the jury who sat on his trial and claimed he was not guilty. Wow. Oh yeah, it's all in the book. Go look all this stuff up. John Landis, and I love how people hate John Landis' son because he's also just a ginormous piece of shit. But like, go look all of it up, and you'll see that the apple does not fall far from the tree. And when that happens, things get sticky. And you know what else is sticky? Do you guys know what else is sticky?
What?
Stickers! Stickers are sticky.
I knew he was going to
This channel is sponsored by riotstickers.com. Look at all the stickers they printed up for me. I'm drowning in stickers. Riotstickers.com is the sponsor of this channel, and we are running a very special deal with them. This deal is absolutely insane. If you have some sort of creative endeavor, if you have an icon, a logo, an image that you need printed up, you can get 1,000 stickers for $79. That's 7 cents per sticker. These stickers have a UV coating. They're printed on vinyl, so they're waterproof, they're sunproof. They'll last twice as long as leading competitor stickers. They have a shelf life, or they have a outdoor life of about 4 to 5 years, man. And I'll tell you, I've stuck these stickers around, and I come back, I check on them because I like to test out. I like to test this out. They don't just do stickers. Look at this banner. Look at this banner that Sharpie printed up for me. They do T-shirts. Look at this. I have buttons. I have bottle cap openers. There's no end. Here's a magnet. Is there no end to the madness of Sharpie Riot and riotstickers.com? So what you're going to do, the only way to get this deal, and I dare you to go on the internet and try and find a better deal. You're not going to, not for the value from an independent businessman who's personable and treats your designs with such tender, loving care. You go to riotstickers.com/Frumess. That's it. There's no promo code. It's down in the description of this video and every other video like it. You go, you click on that link, and that's going to bring you to the deal. That's the only way you get this deal. Again, 1,000 stickers for $79. That's 7 cents a sticker. Let's play the Less Than Jake 60-second theme song before we continue with hearing Jerry Horror's next horrific fact. If I could just find it right here. Where the hell is it? It's somewhere. I'm stalling for time now. It is.
I see it. It's
right.
We make stickers, banners, and buttons too. Posters and promo cards. There's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads. We can print on shirts. We can print on hats. We can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality. Quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support. Great customer service and so much more. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
Yeah, baby. All right. What do you got for us, Jerry?
There were two very different versions of the 1988 film Child's Play. Tom Holland, director, we didn't know this up until recently with like the Scream Factory, Shout Factory, 4K release. We didn't know a lot of this stuff. There was a lot more shot for Child's Play, the original, that like they essentially there's a version of this film that is much more a thriller and never really gets you to the, they shot like an additional hour of footage, all usable stuff that was more about Andy, the loss of his father. It was a much more heartbreaking movie to watch with a child actor. It was almost like there's a version of this that Tom Holland might have been going for an Oscar for that little kid, Ultimately, the studio, like at that time, MGM really needed a hit. This was before they were going to sell to Turner. This was kind of like their last gasps of the 80s. And there was like two different films being made. One film was this dazzling visual effects film with a puppet, and the other was this thriller / psychological drama with a child. And they were always that was elements that were always competing and that Holland had wished would join together. The original finale of the film, which is funny because Home Alone would come out like 2 years later. Home Alone, the finish of Child's Play was originally Andy fighting Chucky with all of these toys like remote control cars. He sets traps around the house. It was like a different finale. And it's funny because
I would have liked to have seen that.
It just, like a year or two later, it gets completely mirrored by Home Alone. The crazy thing is that ultimately we found out the original cut of Child's Play ran about 2 hours and 42 minutes. 2 hours and 42 minutes. What are we doing in this fucking evil Chucky doll film? You don't want that. Like, look, it is what it is. Studio gets ahead of it. The producers are like, fuck this. This movie needs to be an hour and a half and it needs to play in as many theaters as possible because MGM is losing money, like, by the millisecond. I think ultimately it worked out, but it's kind of crazy, right? Like, it was almost this 3-hour psychological epic. And it sounds like who would thought that was a good idea, right?
Right.
Yeah, like Jeff said, I would have not the 3-hour version, but I would have liked to see that original ending.
Oh yeah.
Just like Andy fighting back, Home Alone style.
As a matter of fact, it sounds like that stuff got ported into Brian Usna's Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5, The Toy Maker, because it doesn't quite have. Yeah, I mean, there's some overlap there. I would have just liked to have seen some Andy using his toys to fight Chucky. That would have been that would have worked for me.
Yeah, I mean, we were at that point, like I was a kid, like it would have been like, yeah, that's how you kill the evil doll.
Right. But you know what that does? I mean, that takes away the original Child's Play. Child's Play got campier and sillier as the sequels go on. And, they're all helmed by Don Mancini, the original writer of Child's Play. And he made them campier and campier and sillier. But the original 1, 2, 3, they are deadly serious films. And I want to say that part of what makes that first one so deadly serious and so scary in that moment when she opens up the battery cover and there's no batteries in there, it has to be because they decided to change the tone and not include that ending. So
it's a thriller. As much as it is a horror film, it's a very well crafted thriller.
It's a great film. I love I'm watching the Chucky series right now on Shudder, and it's really fun. So.
Jerry, you like the Aubrey Plaza Child's Play movie too, right?
I really liked Child's Play 2019. It's funny because Megan came out. Megan's
she's in the. She's in the remake. Oh,
yeah,
I did not know that.
Brian Tyree Henry. It's got a great cast.
It's a great remake. I enjoyed it. I loved it.
It's one of those things. I wish they would have just let it be its own thing and not called it Child's Play.
It didn't need to be called Child's Play. It didn't. Nope.
Yeah, it's messed up.
No. In fact, it's funny. They have that Bruce Campbell. Speaking of Bruce Campbell, they have that Bruce Campbell horror film called Black Friday. You could have made it centered around Black Friday, had all that same sort of stuff going on, and just that could have been Black Friday, and that would have been interesting. So,
better movie.
That recent Christmas movie with David Harbour.
Violent Night.
Violent, yeah.
Fun, very fun.
But it had that whole running joke of like, are they going to Home Alone it or what?
Right.
And then it actually pays off when the Home Alone scene shows up, and it's freaking gory as hell.
Yeah.
In a very funny way.
Can I just rattle off a rapid fact here? Because this one it's breaking my brain. So you guys, you're aware of, and everybody like a cold open. It's how long you go before you get to a title card or something of that nature. The longest cold open in a horror movie.
I know what it is.
What do you think it is?
All right. Well, I don't want to take it. I don't want to take it away from you, but I think I know what it is. I'll let you say it. But I
want to hear what your guess. I want to see if you're right.
All right. I will. I just felt bad because you were in the middle of telling us the fact, and then I just interrupted you. Is that okay? Can I say what I think it is?
Yeah.
Mandy.
Ooh.
Wrong.
I would say Scream.
It isn't.
It isn't.
Because this freaks me out because it's something that you don't think of. Like, I've never thought of, like, what is the longest cold open? But cold opens can be very important in a horror movie because even, like, if you see stuff like Barbarian, it's like its own little self-contained mini movie. And a lot of horror films do that. Like, even, like, recently, like, Halloween Ends, there's that whole sequence with the kid in the beginning, and it's like its own little short film, and then you hit the title card. It's Friday the 13th, 2009. 23 minutes and 39 seconds until you see a title card.
The kids in the
Mandy,
the weed in the woods.
But I mean, to argue it, I'm sorry, but it happens halfway through the movie in Mandy.
Oof. Yeah, you're right.
So if you're counting, if Mandy is at least, it maybe not straight up horror, but it's horror adjacent. It's a genre for sure. You don't see the Mandy title card until he makes the axe, and that's literally almost an hour into the movie, just about an hour into the movie. So I would argue that fact, but I don't know.
Would that if the title comes near the end of the movie, is that considered a cold open?
But it's not near the end of the movie. It's the middle of the movie. It's literally halfway through the movie.
I would consider that like maybe a stylized choice, maybe, halfway through the movie is a.
Well, what about 23 minutes into the movie is also a stylized choice then? So I would argue that Mandy has the longest one. But look at Drag Me to Hell.
Oh, love that movie.
I love that movie too, but the whole movie is a cold open.
and people always forget Drag Me to Hell is a PG-13 movie.
Oh my God. When that time, I'm watching it and I'm going, fuck, no one's getting dragged to hell. What the fuck? I'm just like, and then all of a sudden.
I know you're a huge sound design guy, Jeff. But, I watched that movie. I saw it in the theaters, of course. Sam Raimi, you had to see his movies in the theater. But the second time I saw that movie was on edibles. And I literally thought demons were scratching on my walls. The sound design and Drag Me to Hell, dude, watch that movie in edibles, surround sound. It's incredible. I recently found another side fact that the movie Megan that just came out, that they were shooting for an R for that too.
We're getting it. We're getting an R.
No, but they were shooting for an R, but they realized upon editing that like if we make a few tweaks here and there, we could probably get more people in the seats with a PG-13, and they referenced Drag Me to Hell as a PG-13 movie that was pretty successful.
Oh, really?
And they were like, if, Drag Me to Hell was a PG-13 horror, maybe we could make Megan one too.
Well, what the problem with that, or not the problem, but what happened was they had a brilliant marketing campaign. They introduced us all to Megan with TikTok dance, and they realized that they were marketing to an audience that was a lot younger than would be able to see the rated R version of the movie. So they chose to do a PG-13 release because they knew that they would be able to get younger kids in because they were familiar with the Megan dance, which is all part of the plan in the first place. So
younger kids, or as the SNL skit posits, for the gays? Is this the first horror movie for the gays?
I don't know. It could be. It definitely could be debated for sure. Happy Thursday, Alberto, to you as well. Cheers. Who's the next Factmeister here? I've lost.
I did two. How many did you do?
Two. I did two. I think. Did I do two?
I did three.
You did three. Okay. I think it's.
The circle broke somehow.
It did break.
Fine.
I will. Okay, I have one. It is shit. I just had it in my head, and right. Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead was supposed to end on a much darker note, and we have to be very careful about the words we use when discussing this ending because YouTube's algorithm will punish us for saying certain words. So I'm going to use different words in order to avoid such penalties. But the original ending of Dawn of the Dead, it's been much contested over the years. Was it shot? Was it not shot? It absolutely was shot. And it's lost to time because it was lost in a flood. When Fran goes up to the helicopter at the end and Peter says, "Leave me, I'm gonna stay, I don't want to go," you see Peter take something and put it to his head, and you see Fran open up the helicopter door And to mirror what happens earlier in the film, it's a payoff to a setup, the helicopter zombie. If you remember early in the film, when the zombie accidentally chops off its own head with the helicopter, that was supposed to set up what for the dark ending, where when she hears the shot go off, she throws her head up into the propeller blades, and that's the end of the movie. And when they got to the end, they did a take, they did the scene. And I think it was George Romero who was like, we love these characters too much. We have to give them a happy ending. And so they chose instead. So when you watch Dawn of the Dead, and you can see the exact moment where they just deviate from the original ending, because he goes like this and she puts her head out because she decides, I can't go without Peter. And when she hears the pop, she knows that it's over for me and my baby. And apparently that ending was lost to time in a flood. I think it was it wasn't Image 10. I don't remember the basement facility where they kept the negative. But you'll often hear back and forth. George has denied that this ending was shot, but Tom Savini, who did all the special effects, as we all know, he adamantly remembers, and I believe Michael Gornick, who shot the movie as well, both confirm that was indeed the original ending, that it was shot. George Romero never denied that wasn't the original ending. I think he said something along the lines of, we never shot it, which was not true. They absolutely shot it, lost the time.
I mean, what was it? In 2015, they discovered 9 minutes of Night of the Living Dead. Nobody knew that this extra 9-10 minutes existed. Anything's possible. I've seen some weird stills, especially from the Romero stuff. So it's anybody's guess at this point,
For sure.
Right on. I'm just like, Jerry's sound is going fast. Slow.
I know. Yeah, I wasn't going to say anything, but
power through.
Jerry, your microphone is something so overmodulated. It's like possessed by a gremlin. So you go like this up in the air. That's an exaggeration, but you go up and down where your voice goes down.
It's kind of cool.
Back up.
It's
so crazy.
Your panel sounds haunted.
It's cool. I like it.
Your panel is haunted.
I like it, but yes, I noticed that too as well, Pete.
Sorry, I just got distracted. We were silent for a second because I was like, it was kind of funny to me.
Pete, it's your turn.
Yeah, mine's just a quick little tidbit, but maybe we could elaborate upon it. But it's about the Dakota Hotel in New York City, where Rosemary's Baby was filmed. Was also where John Lennon lived and was.
Yeah,
that's probably a common fact that people know. But I had no idea. I live in the city, and I play softball there all the time, across from there in Central Park, and it's like this beautiful Gothic looking hotel, and there's a lot of weird things that happen there, including the fact that when John Lennon lived there, he swore he saw a UFO there. But Rosemary's Baby and John Lennon, a little connection there. I don't know if we can elaborate upon that. That's it.
Nice. That's a good one.
Okay. Anyone else got one? I have another one if you want me to.
If you want, I think it's Jerry's turn, but you could go again. Sure.
Jerry, you want to go?
Yeah. Let me just. I gotta power through this. All right.
Yeah. Give the viewers something good.
I don't know if it's good, but it's interesting.
Sorry, Jerry. This is what you sound like. I don't know if it's good, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yo, man, this is straight up just a regular old iPad. Nothing fancy. I got a regular old shotgun mic. I switched from the headphones. I don't know, folks. Maybe it's the broadcast. Maybe
It's so good. It's so good.
It's really
like,
great.
It's like the Gremlins are like going like this behind the scenes, like
going,
ripping the reel. And then Hulk Hogan's like, "Hey, brother, put the reel back on."
What a surprise! We had a motherfucker named Jerry Horror, and all of a sudden, bad and spooky shit started happening. Okay, here we go. Let's go. Brian Woods and Scott Beck, better known now as Beck and Woods writing team, they were working for Paramount, and Paramount was like, listen, man, we need a really slick follow-up to Matt Reeves' original Cloverfield film. So they're writing and writing and writing, and the studio is just like, these are terrible scripts, and they will not get made. Little did they know, they met through a chance meeting John Krasinski, and he's like, well, what have you guys been working on? Like, we got this script for Cloverfield 2. And that movie ultimately became A Quiet Place. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like Paramount hated that fucking script. But Krasinski jumped on board, did a couple little story changes and rewrites. Next thing you know, you've got A Quiet Place, which I think in the last 10 or 15 years has really been one of the better science fiction, horror, apocalypse films. But yeah, it just shows that, you know, there's initially a studio can look at something and say, this is terrible. But if you have the right person to reframe it or the right collaborators, this proves that, you know, everything deserves a second chance. Even my microphone.
Nice. Very nice.
Just so you know, like your microphone is like this is like a treasure. Like this is wonderful. Like I love hearing it, but I'm just it is what it is.
They're rooting for you, Jerry, in the chats.
Yeah, they're saying go for it, Jerry. Jerry.
Yeah, it's really interesting about like The Quiet Place because, or like just this whole story of Cloverfield in general, where it's just Cloverfield 1 was one of those. I went to like a special screening of Cloverfield 1 back in 2008 when that movie came out. And it was one of those things where it's like free screening for a movie. So you go, me and my friend Jake, we went to this bar, and the cast of Cloverfield 1 was pretty much all unknowns, right, at that point.
Right.
And they're at this bar, and if you remember that movie, it's a found footage movie, but it's like the beginning of the movie is a going away party for one of the characters. So Jake and I go to this bar, and it's a going away party for the characters, and all the actors are there. And I kind of like recognize Lizzie Kaplan. Lizzie Kaplan and I were standing next to each other at a bar, just waiting for drinks. And I'm like, this girl is really cute. Lo and behold, we go to the movie, and it's freaking everyone there is on the screen. I'm like, holy shit, that's really awesome kind of marketing thing where they put you in the movie. But even like 10 Cloverfield Lane, like wasn't that originally that wasn't a Cloverfield movie, and like last minute, like all they did was just did reshoots for the end where Mary Elizabeth Winstead just pops out and there's a fucking Cloverfield monster there. Like how genius is that? Even though like any follow-ups to those two movies have kind of tanked, but I kind of like the idea that A Quiet Place is part of the Cloverfield universe, even though it's not official, right? But kind of sideways. It's kind of like the side verse of Cloverfield. They should keep trying to do, like, was it Cloverfield Paradox?
I didn't see that one.
Yeah,
and that was another movie. That was just another movie that they said, hey,
right,
we got no angle to market it. They slapped Cloverfield on it.
I think one of the cool facts about Cloverfield Paradox is that if you time it along with the original movie, when like the machine explodes in Cloverfield Paradox, is timed perfectly with shit exploding in the original Cloverfield.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dark Side of the Moon, Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Groovy.
Rad.
Groovy facts.
Okay, you did. What is that? That's your. You just did one. Jerry, is it your turn or is it my turn? I don't remember.
I think it's your turn now.
Oh, it's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here is a really great rad fact. So for years I have watched, occasionally I have put on Deep Rising. Love this movie, great friggin' movie. It's a crime that it never got a sequel. Same director, by the way, as both Van Helsing and The Mummy and The Mummy Returns.
That's the Treat Williams one?
Yeah, the Treat Williams one, right, where he's doing an Ash sort of rip-off character. The end of the movie, they wash up on that island, and something is coming towards them, and there's a catchphrase, "What now?" And I always wondered, like, what did they have planned for the sequel? What was it supposed to be? And as it turns out, that was because they were trying to introduce, long before we had our shared universes and whatnot, that was supposed to introduce King Kong. That was supposed to be lead into a follow-up movie with King Kong. And they were supposed to have washed up on Skull Island. And it never came about. And it still makes for a really great button. It's just a great little end, epilogue to the whole situation. It totally fits with the movie. It's a really fun action monster film. It falls into so many different categories if you wanted to, and it's just got every element you can imagine. And that dude is just a great director. I think he also directed Virus with Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Sutherland. Maybe not. And I just really enjoyed that movie, and I always that fact always blows me away. So
another missed opportunity: Treat Williams versus King Kong.
Oh man, yeah, that would have been that.
Okay, going back to being Pitch It Movie Pete with you, Jeff and Jerry.
Yeah,
another missed opportunity would be Treat Williams and his friends washing up on shore, and there is Bruce Campbell with a Congo gorilla with arm. He's already fighting Skull Island prehistoric creatures. Bruce Campbell team up with Treat Williams. Couldn't ask for anything better. Take it, Mr. Hollywood. $11 billion.
$11 billion gajillion. That would be perfect. Perfect. I love it. Jerry, floor is yours.
Let's. This is not a crazy one. If I can open see what I do is I make little notes in my iMessage, iNotes. Yeah. So let's see. Let's go into. Oh, this is a good one. Everybody knows about the classic Stephen King adaptation that Stephen King hates, The Shining, directed by the late great Stanley Kubrick. This is kind of a weird fun fact that we didn't discover up until about, I think, 5-10 years ago. So when you see the pages in the book, it says all work, no play, Jack being a dull boy, that whole thing, just typed over and over again. And there were a bunch of production assistants, and there were people who were furnishing the production, and they said they still never figured out who wrote all the stuff typed, because back in we didn't have word processors, we just had typewriters. Somebody typed it over and over and over again. And the rumor or obscure fact is that Stanley Kubrick typed it, and it was a way of him having to deal with everybody and everything that was going on the set. That was a way of him self-soothing. So he would, every night, he would write, all work and no play, make Jack a dull boy. And apparently he enjoyed it because he wrote it pages and pages and pages of it.
But it wasn't just like normal type. It, like as Wendy keeps turning the pages, they're all kind of they get gradually more and more weird.
Yeah.
Right? They get design, but it's also all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Yeah. And that was all Kubrick. No?
All Kubrick.
Wow.
Kubrick. Wow.
What a weirdo. What a weirdo.
Wow. That should be like a hotkey. Like every time you get, there's like somebody says something. If I had a producer on the show who just like rode shotgun on my show, they'd just like press the button during like certain things, like wow, wow.
Fun fact, wow.
That'd be good. No, that is crazy. I mean, that's just that's a testament. That's a testament to a dedicated director who's, looking into the details. It's always about the little details. Nobody is going to care about the little details as much as the director does. And that is, whoa. Fun fact, Jerry turned into a cat. And his name was Tom instead of Jerry. That was
Tom and Jerry.
Yeah, wow.
I like that. That's Brooklyn.
Terrible
That's
joke.
Brooklyn the cat.
Oh, Brooklyn the cat. I see. I
got one more.
Pete, It's your turn.
Yeah. So you guys have seen the original Friday the 13th. 1979, right? Sean Connery. 78?
80.
Oh, 80.
Yeah, 80.
Shot in Blairstown, New Jersey. Have you guys ever gone to Blairstown?
No, but I knew that was Blairstown, New Jersey. I know someone who lives out there.
Yeah, so this fact is about someone who lives in Blairstown.
Okay.
Yeah, so about a year ago, I actually took a trip to Blairstown. Met up with some filmmaker friends of mine. Jed Shepard, he's a British filmmaker. He produced Host, that movie Host, and our friend Blair Bathory. Like they came overseas to do a little trip for like a YouTube show they were shooting. And nice. Sean King and we met up with them, and because I've never been there to the set of Blairstown, but like you go there and it's just like walking into the movie. It was shot on a real camp, operational camp, and a neighbor who lived right there in Blairstown, their neighbor while they were filming, who visited, musician Lou Reed. Lou Reed lived right next door to the set of the camp.
That's
and
weird.
He would visit his neighbor and hung out with the kids, including Kevin Bacon, and he even performed for a lot of the actors and just hang out, checking out a low budget horror film. That's a walk on the wild side.
It's a small world.
That is a walk on the wild side. That's a perfect way to put that.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, for my final factoid, it's a kind of a common one, but it is a really great one, and it kind of elaborates into something that I wanted to touch upon earlier, so I figured it's a great way to dovetail into that. Most horror fans know that the Shape mask from Halloween is based on a really famous actor, and that actor happens to be William Shatner. William Shatner's face is the face of Michael Myers, and and this happens in scripts in general. Things are not there was no descript. It was the same thing with Scream. Was the same exact way when you consider how Scream is the 90s descendant of Halloween in many aspects. They didn't have an idea of what the mask was supposed to look like. They just knew they wanted a mask. And I love, personally, when I try to write things, there's sometimes details like that. I just don't worry about it. I just figure, it's going to be a detail that's going to get fleshed out when it's time to flesh it out. Now, obviously, there's sometimes when you're writing something very specifically. But in this case, in the case of Halloween, in the case of Scream, that these masks were not, and they grabbed these masks, and these masks became super iconic. In any case, they were like, we need a mask. What are we going to do? So they grabbed a Captain Kirk mask from a local shop. They cut out the eye holes, and that became the Shape. And I wonder, I don't think it's ever been said, has William Shatner ever, taken legal action? Because technically they're cashing in on his right to publicity. And with the right clever sort of lawsuit, not saying that he should sue them, but that he probably has some case for or did they transform his face enough that it falls under fair use? I don't know. Okay, Jerry has an answer for me in a second. He's going to tell me in a second.
Yeah, we've done several episodes of The Offering with Halloween episodes. So. Okay.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say about it, and the rest is history. Michael Myers is the face of William Shatner. Again, this is not some shocking revelation. This is very common. This is as common as Luke Skywalker being the son of Darth Vader in pop culture. What is interesting though is we were talking earlier about how Halloween. We were talking about I wish we lived in that parallel universe where we got that movie. And I've often felt that way about the Halloween films. I feel like the proof that we live in an alternate reality is that they decided to make 12 films with Michael Myers because it's so common. I've said this a bunch of times on the channel, but it so reminds me of that scene in Back to the Future Part 2 when he's in Hill Valley Square and he sees a sign for Jaws 19. And it's like there's some reality out there where they really did make 19 Jaws films, the exact same formula in the exact same kind of way. And I think evidence that we live in an alternate reality is that we literally have that many Halloweens. Because originally the idea was that after Halloween 2, they were going to change directions. And Season of the Witch is the only proof that Halloween was going to turn into an anthology franchise, which would have ruled. I would have loved that. I bet you. And there's another alternate universe somewhere where that is a time-honored tradition. Every year we have a new Halloween film that has come out. There's 30 years. It's just like James Bond. It's just like James Bond, except instead of there being 25 James Bond movies, there's 25 Halloween films, and it's a different theme, just like American Horror Story every year. And we don't have it. And we live in this weird place where we got
Ryan Murphy. I guess you're right. Ryan Murphy ended up doing that with American Horror Story.
Ryan Murphy literally was like, that's a great idea, and then did it. And it's it's not the longest running series on television, but it's past the decade mark and it's showing no signs of slowing down. In fact, it's spun off now into American Crime Story and American Horror Stories. So there's 2 spinoffs, and they're still doing the original American Horror Story. So it's a testament to how much people love anthology concepts and why they really dropped the ball by not powering through the disappointment at the time of Season of the Witch. I will shut up now. Go ahead, Jerry. What were you going to say?
Oh, there were in 2018, before they did David Gordon Green's version of Halloween, this Halloween trilogy, as we know it, one of the drafts that was predominant was doing a multiverse thing. And it was basically like there was going to be a shadow world. And in that shadow world, it contained the multiverses of all the different Halloween timelines. Like there's the timeline with Josh Hartnett. And in that, Josh Hartnett was going to play a cop. And he was basically going to shadow walk with Michael Myers through all these different dimensions and see how honestly, it was a batshit crazy.
Sounds
script,
like it.
But I kind of want to see it. It is what it is, things. But ultimately, going back to the whole Shatner thing, what ended up happening was Shatner decided he's like, all right, I'm going to take some legal action.
He did. Huh.
This was right around the time of H2O, which is, I want to say, 97. So fucking Stan Winston came in and redesigned the Michael Myers mask. And there were the Weinsteins, there were all these different producers that were working on the film, and they all had say, and they kept changing the mask. And part of why the mandate to have Stan Winston create a new mask was they were like, we don't know how this Shatner thing is going to go. So just in case, let's make the mask just different enough.
Sure.
Ultimately, halfway through production, Shatner's just like, yeah, I'll take a lump sum payment. They gave him a couple of $1 million. They didn't have to do all that bullshit to begin with. They should have just kept it looking like Shatner, I don't know. You pay all that money to have fucking Stan Winston redesign a mask, and then who would have known what But that's what all these stories.
He looked goofy. The H2O Michael Myers looked really goofy.
Yeah, and
then they had these CGI. Right?
The Rob Zombie masks look really great, and so did the David Gordon Green masks. I thought looked really good.
Those are good masks.
Scary AF. Yeah.
So how about that? God, there was one other thing about what you were saying, and then I was gonna respond to that in terms of when you were talking about the cat.
Rare kitty.
What's the name of your cat, Jerry?
This is Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Hi, Brooklyn. Jesus, what was I thinking about? And you made me think of, we were talking about the parallel. Oh yeah, except that we ended up just instead of getting all that variation, we just got the same thing. Oh, that's what I was going to say. All right, so I did have one idea that basically blended. It's on this channel. I basically pitched my version of Halloween 4.0. It was a pitch it, move it podcast of Hollywood of Halloween 4.0, except it would have been more like Hollywood Halloween 4.0, and basically it takes place in the real world where Jamie Lee Curtis is shit. What was the thing? No, Laurie Strode was going on a book tour about how she survived the thing. Michael Myers finds out he actually does encounter William Shatner and skins his face, and then puts on William Shatner's actual face as the mask, and basically it turns into Last Action Hero in a movie theater where she's the only one who knows that Michael Myers is there, and then they fight and the whole theater catches fire. It's like a 7-minute clip. It's somewhere on my channel. I forgot what I said, but I had a whole idea around what I would do in that situation. You made me think of that when you said that just now. Basically, it was the idea of like she becomes a writer and she writes about her story. And that actually does happen in the last Halloween movie, ironically enough. So
I like that. That you just made me think of something, a fact. It's not a horror fact, but there's a lot of things I'm trying to button things up as we're wrapping up.
Sure. What's it called? Final Descent.
So it has to do with multiverses because we were talking about multiverses, and it also has to do with Jamie Lee Curtis. One of my favorite movies from last year, Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh, so good.
Returning to theaters this weekend. Everyone go out there because it's amazing. But I got to meet those guys, the Daniels. My friend Jake, once again, he works at the Ghetto Film School where he gets filmmaking students to meet filmmakers. And the Daniels showed up with Stephanie Hsu, and they gave like an hour and a half long, a seminar to these high school kids. And one of the things I learned that from that seminar was the original script, the original conceived script of Everything Everywhere All at Once was a reunion for Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh.
Oh, that would have been cool.
And that's what they originally pitched. That was the original draft, original version of the first draft. And they actually had Jackie Chan as the lead originally, with Michelle Yeoh. And so as they went on into production, or not into production yet, but pre-production, Jackie Chan had to drop out. So they were like, what are we going to do now? We still have Michelle Yeoh. That's still huge. So they rejiggered the script and they made it. The film was originally focused on Jackie and it was a male lead instead of a female lead.
Oh, interesting.
So as drafts go on, they're like, we still have Michelle Yeoh. So then they focused it on Evelyn, the character of Evelyn.
Perfect.
And they kept working on it and like, there's nothing here. We're missing. So then they started focusing on the mother-daughter relationship. But they just kept working on the drafts. But in another multiverse of a movie about multiverses, there is a version of that where Jackie Chan and Michelle Yeoh are battling Jamie Lee Curtis through multi-dimensions. I do like the world where we live in, where Ke Huy Quan is raking it up.
Yeah, dude, I'm very happy for that, dude.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I'd like to thank my guests so much for coming on. It was so nice to meet you, Jerry Horror.
Yo, thank you. Pleasure. It's all mine.
And if you want more of this stuff, go check out The Offering. The link is in the description. And I want to thank Stone Cold Pete, who is truly a podcast master of his own right. Go check out the Pitch Movie Podcast. And, just Pete is a man with many fingers and many pies, and he's just always doing cool stuff. And that's what I really admire about him greatly. He's always out there, and just a really bubbly, enthusiastic, just awesome dude doing his thing. Let's close with one final fact. And this is another super well-known fact, super well-known. Everybody knows this. I think it's pretty freaking well-known. But much like Orson Welles' Citizen Kane was the first film to ever show a ceiling. The first film to ever show a flushing toilet was Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho in 1960. So for almost 60 years and thousands, think about the thousands of productions, the thousands of stories that have been told up until that point. Not one of them ever showed a toilet flushing, probably for many reasons. But that is the first time that we see in cinematic history a toilet flush. And you think about how common that is. Like, not common, but like it's something that is fairly, I would say it's common. It's a common thing. You would see something like that. So
also the first time anyone saw Janet Leigh's giant dookie going down the toilet.
That's right. So
it's massive burrito size.
So deleted.
Speaking of Jamie Lee Curtis,
right? Her mom.
That's her mom.
Totally forgot about that. So there is a legendary deleted scene. This is really something else. There's a legendary deleted scene where, after Janet Leigh is stabbed to death in the shower, her bowels release, and she just takes this giant steaming pile of shit that just comes shooting out of her brown eye, all over her dead corpse, and goes swirling down the drain of the shower. First time that ever happened in a film as well. Just giant bowel evacuating horseshit that came out of her butt. And then the studio, which was already taking a risk on this film, was like, we can't do that. Alfie, you can't do that, buddy. We'll let you keep the toilet flushing, but you got to take the dookie out. And so they cut out this scene. It's lost the time. They destroyed the negative. And the next time
they didn't. He's like, as long as I get to keep the negative to jerk off to in my own private viewing of.
That was a good Hitchcock, man. That was good Hitchcock. See, Jerry Horror and Pete will return in the future where we do, instead of 5 obscure horror facts, we're going to do fake facts just like this, where we talk about the alternate history from popular movies. Well, just like the one I just did just now, and that'll be that. And we'll do that at some point in the distant future when life is not so hectic. I'd like to again thank my guests. Peace, Hair Grease. Check out the podcast. Check out riotstickers.com, because that's where you can find the best sticker deal. Go check out everything that everybody does. My Patreon, you know you love it. I'm not going to do it for you now, and we're ending the show right now.
You've been listening to The Offering with Jerry Horror, I'm very sorry. Produced by Pete Bune. If you have a question or a story you want to share with me, we'd love to hear from you. You can email me at jerryhara@gmail.com or hit us up at Twitter @jerryhara or on Instagram @jerryhara. You getting the picture? Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are provided for you and your family. I want you to enjoy. Just join us next time for another offering.
This has been a Sick Boy Wolfgang production. Thank you for listening.